Hi everyone, I'm Megan, and today I am here to bring you my March TBR. I want to start by saying this is an incredibly ambitious TBR. There is no way that I think that I can get all these books done. However, several of them are for school and those will need to get done. So I'm guaranteed to read about 4 books, but I'm like really in a reading mood lately and I think that I can do it. Spring break is coming up this week and then I'm traveling at the end of the month to a writers conference in LA, which means about like a 3.5–4 hour plane ride. So like there will be opportunities for me to read a lot. Whether or not I can actually read 14 books in 1 month will be seen. I don't think it's gonna happen. I will start with the books that I'm reading for class, and I'm trying to get ahead on my readings. First on my list is A Field Guide to Getting Lost by Rebecca Solnit. This is creative nonfiction, and it is an exploration of like what being lost means and what you might gain from being lost. Rebecca Solnit also wrote Men Explain Things to Me. She's written a lot of other creative nonfiction pieces exploring different ideas. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. Next on my list is for my poetry class, and this is Muscular Music by Terrence Hayes. I don't really know what this is about. It's a book of poetry. Next is for my contemporary prose class, which is The Teacher with Flawless Tastes, who I will probably talk about a lot because she has flawless taste. Anywho, first is My Life is a Foreign Country by Brian Turner. This is creative nonfiction, a kind of memoir about Turner's time in Iraq, and that's all I know. Next on my list is Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi. This is creative nonfiction as well, and I believe it's a letter to his son talking about the world and race relations in America. And I've heard it's like really good. And finally for class I want to read The Chronology of Water by Lydia Yuknavich. This is another creative nonfiction book that is a memoir type thing about Lydia's time trying to become an Olympic swimmer, and then I think she gets involved in like drugs and sex, and I've heard it's very graphic. And I don't know how it'll be. I've heard it's kind of brutal and like sad. So we will find out. Next is one book that I want to read for research. So I'm revising a novel that I wrote set in Victorian London, and I am trying to like work on making sure it's historically accurate and it like feels like the Victorian period. So for my research, I picked up How to Be a Victorian, a Dawn to Dusk guide, and this is by Ruth Goodman. This is nonfiction. It's an exploration of the everyday life of Victorian men and women. Now, all the books for fun that I want to read. First is Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice, the first book in the Vampire Chronicles series. I've actually already finished this. Booyah! But also I started it in February, so kind of cheating. Anyhow, this is about an interview with a vampire. Now, Louis Pondelac is the vampire in question, and he is telling a young boy about his life from the 1700s when he was turned into a vampire up until the 1970s. It's got some weird stuff happening in it. I forgot how weird it is, but I enjoyed it. I'm just going to go through the Vampire Chronicles, even though I plan to read books in between each one. So next is The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice. This is the second in the Vampire Chronicles series, and I have a bookmark in there, but I haven't actually started reading it yet. Lestat was a main character in Interview with a Vampire. He is the one who turns Louis into a vampire, and this is Lestat's story from, I think, 15 or 1600s. Which is like that's like 100-year difference. My goodness. I think 1600s Paris up until the 80s. The third book is Queen of the Damned by Anne Rice. This is about the Queen of the Damned. These titles, so perfect. Anyhow, she comes back from, not the dead, but she reveals herself and there is like something big going on. I honestly don't remember that much about this. I just know that this kind of gives more of the history of the vampires in this mythology and how they came to be. The fourth Vampire Chronicles book is The Tale of the Body Thief by Anne Rice. I remember this being my favorite of the series, but I don't remember why. It is about Lestat again. He is like the main character throughout the Chronicles. So Lestat ends up switching bodies with a human, and so he's technically human again, and he has to figure out a way to get back into his own body. So these last 4 books I plan to read in between the Vampire Chronicles books, because I've kind of lost that ability to just stick with one series. I kind of got bored in the middle of Interview with a Vampire, and maybe that's because I had already read it twice before. So I'm worried that I'll get bored with the other Vampire Chronicles books, even though I remember much less about them. So just to keep things interesting, I'm going to read other books. First on my list is Kill the Boy Band by Goldy Moldavsky. Goldy Moldavsky? That sounds right. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to start reading this. Like, as soon as I'm done filming right now, I'm going to go read this book. I saw this in the bookstore. I think it's really new. It just came out, and it was just sitting on a little stand propped up, and I was like, damn, look at that cover. I want to read that. This is YA. So it's about these girls who accidentally, I don't know how, kidnap a member of their favorite boy band, the Ruperts, and like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but it sounds super cool. I read the first page as well, because I do that a lot. I read the first page, and it says, the most important thing that you should know is that this is not fan fiction. It isn't one of those lonely girl Tumblr fantasies about meeting your biggest celebrity crush. This is the story of me and my friends and the time we met the Ruperts. You can believe it or not, that's on you. Just because you heard a different account of the events on the news doesn't mean that this one isn't true. I have to tell it exactly as it happened. I have to get the truth out, and I'm truly sorry for what we have done. Like, if that isn't a slammin' opening that makes you want to read this book, I don't know what is. So, you will probably hear more about this later. Next on my list is The Singer's Gun by Emily St. John Mandel. It is literary fiction, I suppose. It could be technically classed as a thriller. It is about a man named Anton Waker who grew up in a family that like steals. I think they're connected with like big organized crime, like the mob or something, and he wants to get out of this business and do his own thing. But of course, there's one last job that he has to do for his family. I'm excited to read this. It smells really good because I am so weird. But it's also like a beautiful green cover, and then on the back it's also beautiful and green. So it's just, I'm just so pumped about books right now. And the last 2 on my list are connected, and these are probably the 2 books that I will not get to if I run out of time this month. And that is Garden Spells by Sarah Addison Allen and First Frost by Sarah Addison Allen. These books are both about the Waverly family, and this is a sequel to this. And I've read Garden Spells before, and I remember like really loving it. Sarah Addison Allen is one of my favorite authors, so I'm excited to revisit this book. It's got kind of this magical realism thing happening where Claire Waverly, one of the main characters, is a gardener and caterer, and she uses like herbs and flowers in her dishes to get certain, to have certain results. So nasturtiums aid in keeping secrets, and snapdragons discourage the attentions of her amorous neighbor. So there's a romance, and so Claire's sister comes back into town after having left, and she comes back with a kid. So it's kind of the story of these sisters reconciling, and then romance happens, and it just, it's really sweet. Her books are really sweet and comforting. So then First Frost is the sequel to that, where the Waverly sisters have established their own business. The daughter of one of the sisters is now having her own romance. I'm excited to read more about this world. Like, I just really enjoy anything Sarah Addison Allen does. And that is my March TBR. It is intense, and I 100% don't believe that I can read all of these, but I'm excited to try. So, I hope you're having a nice day, and I'll see you later because I'm gonna go read. Bye!